It's campaign and conquest, let's play TTRPGs done right. War games and gaming, with Storm and Magenta tonight.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever works for you in your time zone. Uh, just going to talk a little bit more about this. Excited to finally get it going. Um, Boy, kind of a tough haul, but I think we can actually finally play. So, um, just want to cover a couple of more bases with some of the rules and stuff like that. So, sorry, I got a little bit of a headache. Um, we're going to use the Star Wars miniatures battle combat, which makes things a little bit faster and easier. So just kind of want to go through that a little bit and give you a gist of it, um, so you know how to get into that when the time comes. God, I hope my computer holds together. It sure is acting weird. That would be my luck after finally getting this all together. That damn thing starts to fail on me. Um, okay, anyway, when it comes up. All right. So the basics of this, geez, um, you have a short, medium, and long distance for blaster fire. And each range band gives you a base difficulty that you need to exceed in order to hit. And first of all, let's just make sure, seeing this thing is acting so weird, can you actually hear me? I've had that happen before where I didn't realize that there was a sound problem and I talked for 20 minutes and people are like, hey, we can't hear you. Just make sure that's working. A little acknowledgement in that would be great. But yeah, you have a base to hit uh, that can be modified by circumstances like target cover and stuff like that. Um, and then if you do hit, there is a strength of weapon, which is damage, versus the strength of any armor that might mitigate that damage. You roll a opposing roll, and the difference between the two rolls determines what, if any, damage has occurred. So it's faster. Um, so there you go. And it gives people a little bit of a saving throw built in with the opposing roll. As a hardcore type war gamer, it's not. I would change things a little bit, but I'm not going to do that to you. You're not in it for super tactical stuff, so it gives you a built-in saving throw type of thing, which is fine. So that way the plot armor is toned down, but it's not off. So a little bit of a padding. So that's the general gist of it. There's some, specifics with other weapons and stuff like that. I don't want to inundate people with a lot of, stuff that may or may not come up. There is melee, um, and that's an opposed roll type of thing as well. When you're fighting with any type of, gaffy sticks or vibro swords or anything like that, there's a little bit of a cal. It's not difficult. You take your strength and you have a particular close assault rating, based on how good you are at hand to hand. Add those up, make an opposed roll. Whoever's got the higher roll, then you do damage the same way. So simple stuff like that. If rocket launchers and grenades come in, and they probably will, we'll touch on that. But basically, a grenade thing is you decide where you want it to go, and then you have a dexterity roll, and that roll will determine where it actually went comparative to you want. Just like shooting a basket. You're always trying to aim for that basket, but it ain't always happening. So it'll put it somewhere outside. And uh, I I talked about it earlier. In the original rules, the bounce or the scatter of that grenade once it lands is ridiculously huge, and we're just going to tone it down. Instead of using uh, 2 dice that make the thing travel, could be like, you know, 12 yards, we'll just down to 1. So maybe, you know, 3, 4, 5 yards at the most usually. So even that seems like a little bit much, but I don't want to get too, you know, variant wise. It's just the easiest way to kind of tone that stuff down a little bit. It makes it go faster too. So that's basically it. When you get into missiles or rockets or anything like that, sometimes you're talking about fire control, and that would be added on to your, to your skill. Or, well, actually, if it's guided, it's in lieu of your skill. The fire control handles the guidance, and then you roll for that against the target. So, real basic stuff. Makes it go a lot faster. So that was one of the things. Now, here's the part. It's a very cerebral game at first. You don't have a lot of combat abilities. You're you don't have to know a lot of lore, but your characters do. Your characters will have, in a lot of cases, or your NPC allies will have lore type skills. And so don't think you have to go down there. It's not homework where you've got to go learn a bunch of stuff that you may or may not know about this, about the movies themselves or the lore itself. Um, what you need to know will be revealed if your skill is applicable and your skill roll is, um, high enough to make the check. That said, there will be things that you might want to, take note of, and that's where people start. Oh God, I don't want to write something down. I know some people get real sensitive about that. But I'm not talking about, it's not like sitting in school where you've got to write an outline of a talk by your professor or anything like that. Just a couple of notes to jot down so you remember things. But a lot of the stuff I'll keep, like NPC names and things like that. It would be helpful to try to write them down or remember them if you're good at remembering names. That's helpful. If you're not, maybe write them down. The only reason I'm asking you to do that, or I'm not asking you to do it, I'm not requiring it, but it may be helpful because it makes the role play better if you're not always reaching for names or asking and stuff like that. Once an NPC is introduced to you, his or her stats will be put in a accessible file section of the Discord server for reference from whoever wants it at that time. Anytime, So, but I know you're going to play with a gal named Magenta, and that's what she uses for her name because she's very concerned about doxing, so she uses a fake name. Sounds like a stripper name to me, but whatever. Um, and she's not good with names, so she'll be writing them down just so that so the role play goes off smoother. Uh, that's about it. I can't. I guess this, and I wish more people could make it. I understand they can't make it to these things, but how do I put this? I don't want to sound like I'm too much honking my own horn, but a lot of this stuff is like roller coasters. You ever been on a roller coaster where they kind of fake you out? Like they do, you go way, way up and then they got that little mini drop and you go, oh, here it is. And then later. So if you feel at the beginning like it's hopeless as far as your power or anything like that, just hold on to the bar, remain seated. Things will change real quick. There's a lot of blind angles and surprises and stuff like that. I don't like to give away the farm by explaining the whole plot before you play. Some people won't play if they don't know the whole plot. I won't tell you that. I'm going to put you in the position you start with, and you kind of start picking things up from there. So it's a little bit of maybe a slow burn for people who are impatient, but it's very role play heavy that way. And that way, you can learn lore, you can learn story, you can put yourself contextually in the world without, again, without having to study like it's an exam by reading a bunch of stuff previously. Again, I do write narrative on this. You're not required to read it. It would be helpful to you as a player to do so just a little bit. It's not going to make or break your ability to play the game, win the game, be effective in the game. It's supplementary largely, um, but it's not some hack and slash. If you play D&D and you play a lot of dungeon crawls or something like that, where you just walk into a place and it's just like just lay waste to anything that moves and grab this ain't the game like that. It's involved with trying to balance combat with role play and with you know thinking and ciphering things out and stuff like that. So um, you'll need perception is a deal. It's an attribute, and you can use perception to see things or things that are hiding or sometimes deduce things, but don't rely on that skill as a crutch to alleviate you from paying attention to what's going on. Because if you don't at least pay attention to the role playing and how the thing develops in session, and you get impatient and just look at your phone and wait for the combat to come, you'll be lost, um, and it'll dampen the enjoyment for everybody at the table. So um, please pay attention. But that again, pay attention doesn't mean we're sitting in the classroom. It's just I know how people can get. So and I can't. If we were at a table, I would respectfully ask that people leave their phones out of reach. Which, but anyway, can't do that there. So you basically get out of it what you put into it. What else did I want to discuss? Well, with the way that using the miniature game as a combat system, um, you can still use all your skills the same. I guess here I'm trying to tell you things like you've played all these games. I guess it doesn't matter because you have never played the Star Wars Miniatures Battle, so it'll just seem the same to you. Unless I know there's one um, of our participants that have played Star Wars before. If they're here, I don't know. I see four people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're they're the people who are playing. But that's kind of all there is to it. Any other people have questions or anything you want to talk about as far as this goes? Um, I'm going to open up Twitter. I see some people looking. That doesn't necessarily mean they're talking on Twitter, but you got to look. Let's see here. Anybody? Not really. No. Okay. Huh. All right. So, anybody? Anybody? Yeah. Well, I don't see anybody in YouTube. That doesn't necessarily mean they're there, but if I don't hear from you, I'm going to assume I'm talking to air. I'm not going to go any further. I mean, I'll find another way to convey the information. So that's okay. Let me know. Or if you have any other questions or anything like that. Tell you what. Let's do this. Oh, I know how to do it. All right, off to button pushing to try to get people's attention. If you're in the room, please. I mean, Y is just enough. You don't have to type whole words just so I know you're in here. It's always uncomfortable for me to talk to. Okay. Come. There we go. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. All right, there we go. Oh, that's you. So, all righty. Good. Thanks. Um, yeah, so like I say, just a little bit on the combat. So it's real basic and simple. Uh, you roll for initiative. You declare your movements. There's any range combat. Then there's melee combat. There's a morale test. Morale will only apply to NPCs, but both yours and theirs. I leave it up to the characters. I don't want to take control or remove agency. So if they feel like it's time to, retreat, that's up to them. That doesn't mean that, you know, even the guy in your squad he might go, I don't care what you think, I'm getting out of here. Panic happens. So that's morale. That's a test. And then any special actions, uh, like say somebody messing with a door to open it, or you know anything that doesn't involve direct combat, but is going on during combat. Um, like if you remember Return of the Jedi, there's Solos trying to hotwire the door, and the other people are covering him. Leia's there with the blaster fire, and he's in there trying to cross wires. That crossing of wires would be a special action, something like that. So that's the sequence of play for combat. And just to reiterate for folks, because the thing doesn't tell you that I'm live for a while, but you have a base difficulty of a number. Short is 6. This is it for range. Short range, medium range, long range. Um, Short range is 6, medium range is 8, long range is 10. You're rolling 2 dice 6 and adding any skills or any positive or negative modifiers to that roll. You're looking to exceed the difficulty number in order to achieve the hit. And if the hit is achieved, there's a strength of the weapon, which represents its capacity for damage. There's also a strength of any armor or just the person in general, which gives you kind of a built-in saving throw. So the target gets to roll their strength and compare it to the strength roll of the shooter, and the difference between the two determines what, if any, damage occurred. So, as I said, that way there's some plot armor for the new players, so you don't feel intimidated if you're not a big tactical, such and such, and go, well, they're going to shoot me and kill me right away. No, there's a little bit of a cushion, but it's toned way down from the actual RPG, which becomes the plot armor so thick you're shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and nothing's happening. It's like watching a GI Joe cartoon from the 80s. There's a lot of bullets in the air and no one's getting hurt because of it. So it starts to become kind of, there's a lot of effort just to try to get this guy, because I keep, you have to roll. So I slimmed it down. It makes it faster, it makes it quicker, but it does make it slightly more lethal. So that's how simple it is. There's a number based on circumstances. Those base numbers can be modified. If somebody's hiding, behind half cover, like a wall that's up to their chest or something, that makes the difficulty number go higher. If they're moving, it goes higher. Stuff like that. Shooters can get bonuses too. Maybe you've got, a special scope or something like that, or all sorts of different things can move those numbers up and down based on the individual situation there. So, but it's real basic, simple type stuff beyond that. Few modifiers, base to hit, exceed, boom, that's it. For grenades, where do I want it as the person throwing a grenade? Basically here. And you describe that, or if it's an encounter table, just go, I want it there. And then you roll your dexterity. If you make it, it lands right where you want it. If you miss it, by how much you miss it, you know, matters, but not as much as it does in the original game. I turned it down because if you use the original game, they can actually roll farther than you throw them, and it's too much. So I toned it down by removing one of the die, but there'll be a little bit of scatter, so it'll go somewhere near where you want. And that includes backwards, so there's a possibility for some friendly fire with grenades and stuff like that. And any missile weapons or heavy weapons usually involve a fire control computer, and that is the skill instead of your own skill. You use the fire control computer as a bonus to hit things like that. That's basically melee. If you get into some sort of hand-to-hand brawling or swords or knives or anything like that, it's kind of an opposed role. You have a melee skill and I believe it's strength, and plus your roll. Same for the person that you're fighting with, and the comparison determines whether you go another round, you got knocked down, you got killed, whatever it is. There's ganging up. You can fight off two people, or two people can get on you. So odds can significantly change things. So with brawling and things like that, that's basically the combat system. Is there little idiosyncrasies or special situations that may come up? Maybe, but I'm not going to read all that to you right now. It'll just feel like drinking from a fire hose if I give you the entirety of the rules. So that's enough, and that's 90% of what's going to happen. Won't need any more than that as far as rules. If something special comes up, we can cross that bridge when we get there. That way you're being spoon-fed information instead of having it around down your throat. As I was saying earlier, another thing is, this is not scholastic. You don't have to do homework, but there are narrative things that I write. They lead clues. They add to things for you. You don't have to know every piece of lore. Your characters will have lore skills that when those skill checks are passed, they can give you information. I'll give you, pertinent lore. That said, if you I've had people do this where they just tune out until it's time to fight. And that, lots of people in lots of games have that problem. I think I've seen it where, they just won't get off their phone. I hope that doesn't happen, because you won't get much out of it. And if you don't care that you're not getting much out of it, that'd be one thing. But if you're not going to put in, then everybody else playing will have a less quality game too. And that kind of sucks for everybody if you ruin it. But but again, it's not a homework assignment. There isn't tons of pages to pour through or anything like that. But every once in a while, there's a little something that I write up. There might be some books that or data pads that have text to be read, things like that. And as far as names, I know some people are horrible with names. There's a gal that you're going to be playing with, and she's one that is awful with it. So do yourself a favor, do everybody a favor, and when you learn the name of some NPC, write it down if you're not good with remembering, only so that the role-playing seems less forced and broken. When people are like, what was this guy's name again? You can just, or gals or whatever, you can just remember it so that the dialogue flows better. So, yeah. So the miniature combat is, just makes it faster, slicker, slightly more dangerous. But then we can, it doesn't become. I loved this game, but playing Yahtzee with the combat, when you played straight RPG combat, sometimes that got a little bit obnoxious. And I've been through it I played this campaign a couple other times, and there was a lot of players, not a lot, but there was a few players that were like, it starts to get a little long in the tooth trying to get a shot to land and actually do something. So um, this will mitigate that a little bit without making it, so deadly that you'll never last. Um, that's it. I there's all sorts of senses. I like to, make sure that smell, sight, and feel and all that are in there too. There's media, video, uh, sometimes sound, sometimes music. I would have liked to make the music myself. I I did snare drums in high school. Just not exactly a musician, and whether you like or dislike AI matters not because I don't have the coins to shove in the slot to make that music. So I can write lyrics, but that's as good as it gets. So um, you that might there might be some of that kind of thing in there too. Um, there are videos not made by me but are relevant for various reasons. None of them are long. Some of them are just scenes from movies. Some of them are CGI fan stuff that work out to be played to help further along things. Again, there's none that are even 10 minutes long. One might be 6.5. Most of them are a lot less than that. So, and there's not that many of them, but that helps. I'm big into getting the vibe and the theatrics of it. So, and I've got the thing set up such that if you find somebody that wants to play, even after we've started, even after a couple of sessions, there's a way to get them in smoothly, with very little need for, explaining everything that's transpired. Just a little briefing, a little overview. I can get them in contextually. Um, I always have what I call an on ramp to do that because I know how churn is. You can play two or three and somebody bow out and then ruin your whole campaign. So there's always room for replacement without upsetting everything else. That's it. I think we covered hyperspace for the new people. I don't think we have to go through that if you played it. Um, I don't. I, I've got a map. I've got my own notes as to distances and stuff like that based on time and all that. So basically, just say what you want to, where you want to go. Give me a general route. I'll give you an ETA, and based on your astrogation roll, which is we'll see how accurate it is and how long it transpires. That's about it. It's real quick stuff like that. So um, I do like to have encounters. Nobody has to have the program I'm going to use. I don't want to get inundated with VTTs and whose is the best and paying for extra. So I'll just stream what I've got to you. So, um, if there's dog fighting or something like that, you can do a little firefight between people, maybe theater of the mind. But if you get into dog fighting and stuff, position is everything. You've got to be able to see a little bit of it. So that's why I'll pull something like that out if that comes up. So, um, but all you got to do is connect to the what we got right here and watch. So I don't use Discord voice anymore. I used to like it, but what happens with Discord voice, at least, and it may be my computer, it may be my connection that's causing this, whatever it is, but it works and sounds good for about 10 to 20 minutes. The more people are on it, the faster it starts to degrade to the point where everybody sounds like they're talking underwater or through a Wendy's drive-through speaker. It just, and this one doesn't, to date, hasn't done that on me. It's been fairly smooth unless your or my connection is really wonky. I have above ground stuff here in the Midwest. Nothing's underground, so sometimes it can get weird for wind, elements, somebody hitting a pole, whatever, blah blah blah. So um, that's another thing. I know technology can really ruin things, and that's why people prefer face to face. I can't do anything about that. I can't play face to face. I got to do this. I can't. I also can't control the myriad of you know interactions that can cause Windows to go and hiccup. So hopefully it'll hold together. I don't, you know, not liable for incompatibility or computers being, you know, what computers can be. That's about it. Questions? Anything like that? I guess the only thing else I could say while I wait for you to go ahead and type, it takes about 10 seconds for me to see a type because of the lag, but I'm not I'm not one for playing super fast and loose, but I'm not some ultra hardcore raw, everything, there's wiggle room and there's times where a gimme's okay or just, that kind of thing, but I'm not one of these, rule zero, rule of cool people that are just going to take the rule book and throw it over his shoulder either. Yeah, just it's chill, you know, no reason to be hard nosed about small little minutia or something like that. But I don't want to play bingo either. So, well, I think I covered everything. If anybody can think of something that if maybe a new person might need that I haven't thought of as far as knowledge about the game system or something like that, feel free to make a suggestion because I can't cover every base going on. So, or any other questions that you might have. I think I don't know if everybody's going to be on voice. Ghost, are you going to make voice? I guess he can't make voice if we play at night. But the problem with playing during the day is then I have the potential for being, you know, interrupted. I think other people have work and can't play in daytime hours anyway. So, oh, one last thing. I I understand wrap it up. I understand I can't keep you all night. You've got to quit, but I'm not one for quitting fast and I'm not one for hard stops. I had one group where somebody's like, I can play, but only till 10. And after 10, I turn into a pumpkin and I just got to go. And that kind of ruined a lot of things. And I also had one person who consistently stopped me about 90% of where I needed to be each session. And and what ended up happening is I would have to fill that 10% in the next time we met. Otherwise, it wouldn't, you'd be missing pieces. And that cut into it became a downward spiral of a cycle. Every session we were losing time making up for the time that somebody had to leave early and stuff like that. So I get it. I'll wrap it up. I won't, you know, go on forever. But this is a bubble bath for me. And I don't want to deadlines and rush. Now it goes from fun to work. So just you let it flow organically. Yeah, I will. Yeah, Scott Palter wrote me. This is shit. This is back in like just just before he passed away. He actually wrote me a permission slip in Yahoo Mail about that because I brought up PDFs and I got you can't use those copyright and all that. And Palter says you you won't see me trying to sue you. I don't give a turkey. So I'll put the links in. I don't know that I want to link to every PDF. I'm not sure about Discord anymore and how intrusive or how they monitor and all that sort of stuff. But I can point you where to go and leave it at that. And if you want to make that choice, not. Some players get snarly about it, like you're giving away material that so take it any way you want, but yeah, you can get a hold of that stuff all second edition. I don't do the retro clone stuff because if I say retro clone, somebody's going to find something that is completely different from everything else because there's so much fan made, modifications and stuff like that. They start grabbing re-up and oh God. So I just keep it to that. And a lot of that stuff has handouts with it anyway. And I'll be giving you handouts, but um, you can download. The scans I've seen are eh. um, there's parts of the scans I've seen that are absolutely illegible. But anyway, it's up to you with that. But if you don't want to fool around with that, I've got all the charts and stuff, screen clip that I can give to you. That kind of, that'd be about it. Um, but what I run for visual aid on encounters is Tabletop Simulator, and you're not required to have it, or even if you have it, you're not required to log into it or anything like that. It's more for visual aid than actually getting a bunch of people in there to manipulate things and all that. Like it just for vision. Well, so what are we looking for as far as? Well, yeah, that's kind of the $64 question. I I was hoping for, but I am flexible. About 8 p.m. Central Time, but I can go. I mean, anytime after 6 p.m. lends itself to me having virtually no interruptions. Anytime before 6 p.m. and I get inundated by familial issues. So that's it. And I'm a night owl, so I'm sure I could go a lot later than you guys could. But you name it. Um, that's what I was hoping for. And I speak for the third player, Zaz, who's not here. She doesn't, she's got kind of a third shift schedule, so she gets up at night anyway, so she'll be fine at night. Yeah, okay, cool, 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 cool. Yeah, I think that would be 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, so that should work okay. Okay, good. Yeah. Excellent, excellent. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You and me both, Chaos. I'm in a situation where I could be the same marathon player I was when I was 14. I know nobody else can, or virtually nobody else can, so I'm not going to tell you that's what we're going to do. Um, it'll be more reasonable than that. But I just don't. I hate having an alarm going off. I feel rushed, and then I don't feel like I'm playing. I feel like I'm trying to beat a deadline at work again. I don't want to do that. That's all. So, um, yeah, that's about it. Oh, I may this may be repetitious. I just in foresight of the way some people take things, some of the NPCs are kind of grouchy. They're not nice. And I had one player that was convinced that it was some that I had made some NPC just to tell him what I really thought of him through the NPC. I don't know you from Adam. I'm not going to do that. And I had one that wanted to fight me my because one of my NPCs was aggressive. They're just characters. Don't take anything personal. Um, so there's that. And lastly, just because I know Chaos, you've heard this before. I'm sorry for the repetition, but for everybody, uh, I'm you know pushing 60, and I'm I'm not going to get ridiculously gross, but hut space is filled with you know gangsters and dens of iniquity and stuff like that. And so it's kind of a little bit of a harder edge. It's not droids or the Ewok caravan show or anything like that. It's a little bit more adult. So I know people's positions on what PG-13 versus PG versus R means, but um, this campaign is a solid 1980s R. So that's all. Not gross, not, but just, you know, adult themes and violence, That's about it. I think the same warning labels are put on Andor. So it's, but that's all, just so you know. That's about it. Yeah. Well, I've run into Boy Scouts and people that were, but just so you know. Cool. All right. All right, cool. Um, I, if you feel satisfied that you've heard everything you need to hear, great. If you just make sure that, to me, it's like going to Blockbuster used to be. You, you'd go through the whole store, and then on the way home, you go, "Oh yeah, I wanted to get, I remembered that one thing I forgot that I was looking for." Yeah. So okay, cool. So in case you forget anything or I forget anything, maybe you can remember. But I've always walked away from these things going, yeah, there's that one thing I forgot to cover, but I think I got it. So, no more questions, no more comments. I think that would be it. Um, yep. This should work okay. If you've got a mic, I've never had the thing reject a mic. I've had mics that didn't work well or connections work well, but I think that just clicking on a thing, it should be able to pick up what your mic is. Don't have to put on, there's a little switch if you're not a fan of having your face on the internet or whatever. I can, there's a little switch where you can just turn the camera off and we can just hear you. Um, and the thing shares the screen real easy. You should be able to see. Here's some, what do we got? Here's the screen share. So there you go. The only thing this doesn't have that Discord does that I wish we could work with is DMs between the players, because sometimes it would be beneficial for them to privately communicate or for me to send them something private for a variety of reasons. But I'll see some other way to work that out. That's about it. Because the parties sometimes split and stuff like that happens. Or you might perceive something that they don't. You're not right near them to tell them or whatever it is. Oh, and you don't have money or anything like all your personal effects, just like jail, they took them when they incarcerated you. But don't worry, that won't be as much of a hindrance as it might seem to some in the game, because it'll get worked out. So that's all you have to worry about. Okay. So feel free to disengage if you've got other things to do. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking, maybe play a game, whatever. Just kind of hang out. If you play D&D, I got a couple of people looking for that at some point in the future, if you're interested. I know get through one game before you start another, but I lesson learned that you can't start early enough to look for people to play these games. So if you're a D&D person, and you might want to consider that at some point too, if that interests you. Or any other games that I won't waste your time with, unless you're interested. I've got a laundry list of them, but anyway, see what kind of games I want to play and stream for a while, hang out. Yeah, but Discord will have a lot of files, and I've already got some in there. Any technology that you use or anything like that, if you any ships you encounter, all those stats and pictures of them and all that like will be put on Word files in channels on Discord that you can view or just or download as you want. So you don't have to flip through pages and you can just keep the lore concise. Alrighty. Cool, cool, cool. I think I got the other player in here. Maybe coming. Let's see. You don't have to stick around. If you want to meet her and she does get on, feel free to stick around, whatever. At least I see her light green on Discord. That may or may not mean she's on. Yep. All right. Thanks for coming. If you're staying, um, let me know. Do, 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 do. Oh, what else? Oh, as far as dogfighting, I kind of forgot to bring this up. There's a bunch of maneuvers listed in. I'll give you that sheet too. So if you get into a situation where you're being a fighter pilot or piloting a fighter, uh, there's some dogfighting maneuvers, and you can use them by name and stuff like that. Just kind of fun to do it that way. Get real into it. With the jargon and all that. So I'll put that out. I think most of them seem like they were borrowed from, reality, split S and something like that. I don't think they have the Immelman in there, but the scissors and the split S and loops and stuff like that for fighter pilots. We'll see you Thursday if you've left. Yep. All right. Exciting. I'm really looking forward to this. I've really, really wanted to do this again. And so I think I'll have as much fun as any players. So I'm sure you'll have fun too. I hope, or at least I hope you will. Certainly put a lot of time into it. So, all right. Oh, a couple new people in there. How you doing? If you're new and I did put in the description, if you haven't participated or you don't know about this and you just learned and you're interested, feel free to introduce yourself. We can hook you up. We can get you in and get you playing. Um, there's always room for more. Feel free to speak up. I never know if I'm talking to bots or people, but we'll just see. Yep. How's it going? Well, I got 4. All right. So, um, let's maybe here. I'll show you this stuff. Let's play this. Here is. We'll start up. You can see the encounter board. All right. Takes a second to load up. Bear with me while it loads. Steam does load awfully slow. when it loads at all. Oh, there we are. Yeah, I got hundreds of modules downloaded on this thing, so that's probably why it takes as long as it does. It kind of goes through all the catalog and looks for updates before it loads everything. And maybe I have too many. Some of them are so old they don't work anymore and stuff like that. But most of the Star Wars stuff that I've gotten over the years has stayed with me, thankfully, and so I can do little miniature games with it and have little battles and stuff like that, which is fun. All right, get back to full screen. There we go. All right. Here's a little bit of one. Kind of cleaning up, kind of resetting this, so that's why there's a lot of stuff laying around that out of sorts. But a couple of little mini Corvette there, and kind of got to scale things a bit, but works out in the end. So, yep. See if there's anybody talking left here or not. There we go. Okay, good. So let's get some of the soldiers out so see if we can see it. There we go. There's a little droid of some sort. Get some Imperial guys. Nah, yeah, see, not everything's working. That's okay. That's not. I don't need any of the Disney stuff. Star Killer would be neat to have just for fun, but okay, so the good stuff is still there. There's my Dewback stuff, and oops. There we go. There. Stormtroopers, pretty cool. So that's what you'll see, and then all I need you to say is like, if you don't want to use the system, just say, I want it. I mean, you're not going to be stormtroopers, but I want my soldier to, move to the 6 inches to the 1 o'clock position. Okay, so there you go. Oops. Give it 6 inches of movement first, or room. Okay. So you can go. There we go. Boom. Oh, so I can do it. There you go. Now you've moved your thing. You don't even have to be, on the system. So pretty neat. And that's all there is to it. Then you go in there and you get, helps to have some dice. You can have different colored dice. There you go. Oh, let's get the, well, shit. There you go. Dice rolled. 11. There you are. That's as simple as it is to use this system. Okay. And the charts can be loaded in on JPEG and stuff like that. Sometimes they'll look pretty good. Okay. All right. So, a couple of people still left in here. I don't know if it's the same folks. If you're new folks, feel free to speak up, say hi. If you're interested, which would be great, let's get you involved. Anything? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? I guess the Discord is not telling me the truth when it says she is online to take the call. Apparently, she's not. So, she'll be there. She insisted that she was going to play, so she saved the day by saying so. So she's the clutch player. She's pretty good. She's played before, so she's a good role player. Good leader for people. The last time she played, um, she kind of took command of the group and led everybody around. So she's good. Yep. And try to shake her loose to come on. Ringy dingy. Yeah, a couple people in here. Feel free to type something so I know you're actually people. I wish they would. Oh, I wish they would. Who would vote this down? The is that really necessary? Um, I wish YouTube would come up with a way of detecting bots better. Yeah, it's not very nice to vote it down. I mean, how does that help you? It just hurts somebody else. Kind of rude and unnecessary. But yeah, waiting for people to speak on up. Da, 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 da. Let's see. Still anybody? No. Okay. Come on, man. All right. Oh, nobody there. All right. Uh, I guess I can't cajole these folks to speak, or they are bots. So, all right. Okay. Well, one thing I'm going to do is, well, I'd like to know if people are here. But there's people here. The other thing I wanted to start with, now that I've moved past Ash Worlds, maybe see if I can edit this at all. Uh, let's switch it to this. I don't know if this will work in the middle of a stream, but I've been trying. AD&D. I'm going to switch over to talking about AD&D unless I get people, if you're here and you want to hear about Star Wars, say hi, I'm here, and let me know that you're real. Uh, Otherwise, I'll switch over to Sandbox here. I don't know if this works, but I'll try. It's just an interesting learning experience, even if there are nothing but bots. Okay, now that I changed it, will it change on YouTube? I can't imagine it would, but oh, it did. Well, that's wild. Cool. All right. Any humans in here? Okay. No, that's not what I wanted. I'll get it right yet. Okay. So moving on into the AD&D Emergent play. Now, I have these on PDF, and I don't care if you don't like that. Some people get really mad when you say you have these things on PDF. I paid for them. They still get mad. And I don't care. Let's see. Now, hopefully my computer won't barf on it. I got a really bad, I got to get a new hard drive or whatever. Okay. There we go. All right. Very hard to see. I'd like to share screen, but I don't know. Um, let's see how well this will come through. Anybody in here to rate the visibility of this stuff? Can you see it? No? All right, well, so Emergent play, sandbox play in AD&D. I had some people that I was talking to over TikTok that were very excited about learning about first edition and stuff like that. At least they were. I don't know if they are anymore. I can't get a hold of them. But uh, people do stuff like that. But I'm going to do Emergent play discussion anyway. And all that means is instead of coming up with a story, a production, things that seem almost like, let's see how that looks when I zoom it in a little bit. Um, they act like they're doing improv acting or they're putting on a movie or a play, and I see on TikTok, and I imagine some of this is for the clicks, for the they're not really as hager as they sound, but some people are like, how do you avoid DM burnout? What if and I go, why are people burned out on just playing a fun little game? And they're like, well, as a GM, you have to entertain your people. You have to work on timing. You have to work on production and the script and all this stuff. And I go, well, God, if you make it sound like that, it sounds like you're building a play or a movie. Production, script, all this stuff. Um, we never needed to do that. One of the things that is missing, um, these games weren't designed specifically to run a module, a one shot, or any of that stuff. Uh, that was that came later, and that came when AD&D, or excuse me, when TSR uh, became a corporation. There were people that invested in it. They saw the original D&D getting a lot more exposure and a lot more circulation than some of the other products, and really turning heads and getting people interested. So some of the people that played with Gary in developing D&D had access to a lot of money, and they invested in TSR, creating a corporation. Long story short, so the modules sold well because by 1980 we're already starting to hear some people talk about complexity and all that, and uh, there was an attraction to the modules. Um, they did very well uh, as far as money being sold in places like B. Dalton and KB and Toys R Us and stuff like that. Made 80% of their revenue off of the modules. But the intention was emergent play or world building on your own. So uh, this is how they did it in first edition AD&D. Appendix A, random dungeon generation. Appendix B, random wilderness terrain. Appendix C, random monster encounters. And then adjustments like CR, their own version of kind of CR if you wanted to do that. Um, Random dungeon encounters, underwater encounters, ethereal and astral encounters, psionic encounters, outdoor random monster encounters, blah, 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 on and on it goes. So, um, with these appendix and making more of your own, you can use them to basically randomly generate a story. Now, the story comes as you play, mostly after you play. But the way that these random elements are strung together into a coherent deal is through the improvisation of the DM, taking the framework that is rolled up. Oh, here's a haunted house or an old house out in the country. Is it haunted? Yes. What's haunting it? This. Why is it being haunted? You can answer all those questions yourself when you're world building, but if you want to do emergent play, they can all be answered, or most of them can be answered through random generation. The rest you can fill in with yourself. Now that you've got this, I see a lot of this. I see a lot of people going, "Well, I'm always buying new material to scan it for ideas." Okay, but why buy? I mean, if you collect it anyway, great. And then you scan it for ideas and you collect it and put it on a shelf. That just seems like a lot of money to spend to get a few ideas and then store the rest on your shelf and never touch it again. I've seen guys show shelfies and go, look at all the stuff I bought. And they're always buying new stuff. Have you played any of it? Nah. I just look through it for ideas. Okay, well, are you playing? Yeah, but I play basic fantasy. I have 10 tons of 3.5 and first edition and all this stuff. I go, okay, but uh, with first edition, you can run an entire campaign with nothing but the player's manual, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. That's really all you need. And the Dungeon Master's Guide has all these appendix that create the majority of the world for you. And the monster manual has all the stats for the monsters and NPCs and stuff like that are generated by these generators. And of course, the player's manual has all the information the players need in order to properly, uh, pilot their characters in tactical situations and all the role playing. So we can go through. I mean, hell, I can do it tonight. I'd rather do it for an audience, or at least an audience that talks back. Um, but you can see how something like this is made up. So we can create. We'll just go through a little bit though. Let's go through the wilderness terrain. So 173. All right. Uh, as the party enters each space being a hex, if you desire to use hexes, grids if you don't, however you divide up your map. Generate a random number between 1 and 20, um, or you could have just said roll the 20-sided die, but whatever. Find the type of terrain the party is currently on by reading across the page. Excuse me. Then read down the column until you find the line where the random number generated falls, and simply move left to determine the terrain that predominates the new space or hex. If a pond is indicated terrain it is in is the same as that of the previous space. If a depression is indicated, the referee must decide as to its nature and extent. Generally, the terrain it is in must be the same as the previous space. A depression in a marsh is the same as lake. Blah, 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 blah. Glens and forests, paths, tracks, and streams must be included as desired. There are ways to get a river and path generator that works fairly well, but it does get a little tricky when it comes to randomly generating those kinds of things. So it is almost better to do as is suggested here and add those in later at your own discretion or when. But anyway, let's say you start out in a plane, okay, and then we go and we'll run the D20. Oh, a leg. Okay, so we got an 18. So that gets us to the left. That gets us a marsh. Okay. So let's roll another one. And we got a 4. Don't use Google Dice, folks. It's about the least random thing I've ever used. But okay. So we got a 4. So then you go and find marsh. You roll a 4. And that's scrub. Okay. So you just keep doing that. And then based on the interval that you want for potential random monster encounters, you might go down after 3 hexes or 4 hexes or whatever you think is the time you want, and roll that. So we'll cover that once we get to the right darn page. All right, monster level 2, let's do that. So now you roll a percentile die. '51. Rot grub. Between 1 and 4. So then you roll your 4-sider. Only 1. So they find a rot grub. There you go. That's it. It doesn't sound exciting until you get in. It might not sound exciting until you get into, developing cities and stuff like that. But boy, there's a lot of pages. Bodies of water, town, city explanation. So Okay. Okay. Let's read this. Explains the encounters. You even have random treasure generation. Now I've taken mine for my system and I call it the Wayfair system, and you can roll up a whole one shot with a thing all the way through. So I, I think we've covered it all. I think I'm going to be done for now because I got a I got a communication from an old friend, and I need to have a sit down and talk with him. So if you're here and you're real, now would be the time to say it. Otherwise, I'm gonna mosey on. I hate talking to myself. I gotta be able to communicate. It says there's 4 people in here, or there were at one point. Anybody? Nope. Okay.